The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning for this February 13th, 2023. Thank you for letting us be a part of your morning, part of the Belly Up Sports Network. Today's show is brought to you by Manscaped and Manscaped.com. Use promo code 1420SCAPED at Manscaped.com today for 20% off and free shipping for all your men's personal grooming needs at Manscaped.com today. Monday morning quarterback, the day after the Super Bowl. It's all done. An NFL season wrapped up. A tight little bow on it last night. The Kansas City Chiefs pulling off a big win over the Philadelphia Eagles, 38-35, and what was a great football game without, there's some little controversies we'll get to in a bit here, but a great football game nonetheless. Somehow, some way, the Chiefs pulled it off. Patrick Mahomes on one leg and one wheel. I don't know what they shot him up with in the at halftime there, but he came out. He looked like he wasn't going to be worth a damn. A one-legged horse out there at the end of the first half. He was hobbling pretty good. The high ankle sprain, I think it was, that he had. Who knows? It's speculation. Obviously, they weren't going to disclose it. We'll probably hear all about it later on today. But Mahomes was unstoppable in the second half, and that was the big storyline really of that football game. The way the Eagles were not able to contain Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the second half, 24-14 lead at halftime. The Eagles looked like they were well on their way to a Super Bowl victory, and the Fly Eagles Fly, the people were singing that throughout the stadium there in Glendale, Arizona, and the like. And you've seen the people of Philadelphia. My brother was in Jersey last night watching the game with Eagles fans all over, and he said when it was over, they're probably going to burn Philadelphia down the way that football game turned out. But the game itself was really good, really entertaining, highly entertaining as far as the drama of the game went. It was fun to watch. It was the two best teams in football, two quarterbacks who were fantastic. Hurts was unbelievable. He had that mistake. We'll talk about that in half a second. He was unbelievable throughout the game. He had a game for the ages, 304 yards, 70-plus rushing yards. And on that went. He was phenomenal. He probably could have been the MVP of that game, even though that the Eagles ended up losing the football game. But you don't see that very often. Usually the winning quarterback gets it, or the kicker, or whoever who turns out to be the TSN turning point of the game. That usually gets the MVP in these one-game winner-take-all situations. Like I said, the game itself, it was great, but it was not without its controversies. I don't know what a catch is anymore. Apparently, there was a couple of plays on the sidelines where I thought was going to be a catch no matter what. I was going back and forth with my friend Moose. We were talking over the text line of that. If that last one's not a catch, then this one can't be either. And it's on and on. I don't know what a catch is anymore. I have no idea how they make these calls, what the ruling is. I think you have a grasp on it. You watch enough football. You listen to enough podcasts. You listen to the guys on TV, what they think is a catch and what isn't. And you just never know anymore. I don't know how it's called. And then all these reviews that happen throughout the game really slow things down for me. It's just the way things are, and you can't really do anything about it. But for me, it just slows the game down to an absolute crawl. Football can be a pretty long game at the best of times, but with all the timeouts and everything else, and now with all the reviews, it really slows things down quite considerably. It can make for a really long game, especially when we get into the playoffs and the halftime and on and on. We'll talk about that too in half a second. But the way the game is handled, it has a bit of a lull to it, and then with the way they can kill clock at the end, the timeouts and everything else, it's all within the rules. That's the way the game's played. Clock management, I get it, but it really slows the game down. In a game that's that close, it kind of can get anticlimactic at that point, and that's the one of the unfortunate, not the one, but one of the unfortunate things about the game of football is how it can get anticlimactic, and it can slow things down to a crawl at the end of it. Whereas a home run in baseball on the last batter, or overtime in hockey can turn into something you have a chance. But basically, the Eagles had the Hail Mary chance at the end, and it wasn't a very good Hail Mary chance. He didn't get that ball down there very far. It would have had to have been a lot of lateral passes and everything else for the Eagles to get into the end zone. But anyways, at the end of the day, like we said, earlier in the year that Mahomes was having one of those hold my beer type of seasons, and it turned out to be that way. Everybody else was talking about all the other quarterbacks throughout the league, how they were going to be dominating the National Football League, but Hurts came out and they won the Super Bowl. I don't think it was nearly as much as nobody was talking about the Chiefs, as much as Kelsey was saying throughout the post-game interviews that he was at nobody's talking about us, nobody's talking. That's not true. Slow it down a little bit, Kelsey. Slow it down a little bit. People were talking about you guys all season long, just not as much. It doesn't have to be all about you, Travis Kelsey. Okay, just slow it down. You didn't have to be that aggressive about it, and just enjoy your moment and say you guys won. Congratulate the people and get on with it. Let's get on to the negative stuff of the Super Bowl. Okay, let's start with the penalty late. Was it a penalty? Maybe. We're talking about the holding call late in the fourth quarter there on that last drive. Was it a holding call? Maybe. Bradbury, whatever his name is, he came out and said, yeah, he grabbed his jersey, but I didn't think he was going to call it. Is it a penalty? Maybe. Is it the time to call a ticky-tack penalty? No. Do not make that call as an official. That guy cannot be making that call at that time in a football game. It's it's a look at me moment. He was being a cop out there. He didn't have to make that call. I don't think it slowed down the receiver one bit. That's my opinion. I don't think it slowed him down at all. I think it was a horseshit call at an inopportune moment. You don't have to make that call. You can make that call week 4 in the third quarter of a game between two teams against Jacksonville and fucking Carolina. That call should not be made at that stage of a game. It's a ticky-tack horseshit call that didn't need to be made, and it was a decision. It was a game-breaking kind of a call that didn't need to be called. If Jalen Hurts doesn't fumble that football in the second quarter, I think it wasn't touched. He just dropped the ball and a touchdown ensued. It was a scoop and score for the Chiefs. If he doesn't do that, we're probably not talking about this call anyway. So is this call on the official? Probably not. There's a lot of stuff that can happen throughout a football game, like that fumble I was talking about, that can make that penalty call a non-existent call. But it happened, and the Chiefs ended up winning the football game because of that call, and you can't say that they didn't. That call decided the football game, and it's unfortunate that two teams who battle that hard had it decided by an official that we won't know his name, we won't know anything about him. It's unfortunate that an official at that moment decided to make that call. It's a bad look on the NFL that call was made like that. Officiating has been a problem for a long time in the National Football League, and it was really brought to light a lot this year with all the different camera angles and everything we got. Officiating's hard. I know, I am one, but that call did not have to be made last night at that time. There was not a defensive hold called all game long that he decided to make a call at that point in the game. That's a look at me moment by the official. It was a horseshit call on a horseshit at a horseshit time. And about the NFL, how is it that field isn't 100% playable, smooth, dry, the whole bit? It's the Super Bowl. You have nothing but money. You have nothing but time to make sure that field is 100% perfect. Both teams were complaining about it with each other. I read this morning, I was doing some show prep. Both teams were whispering to each other and talking to each other about how wet the field was. They were slipping and sliding all over the place. They were starting to show it in the second half a lot. They were showing some situations where guys were sliding, the changing of the cleats. The field was in even rougher condition after the Rihanna halftime show. But how that field isn't 100% perfect. It's the National Football League. You guys talk about how great you are. You talk about how perfect you are. You can do nothing wrong. You answer to nobody in North American sports. You're an absolute joke that field wasn't 100% perfect. It's an absolute joke that field was in the condition that it was in, and it's a crime on that game for guys who get one shot at it. The way this game is treated is turned so commercial and it's crap. It was absolute crap that field wasn't perfect. The commercialization of that game yesterday was at an all-time high on Fox. I get it. I understand. If anybody knows about pushing advertising and pushing products, it's me. I do it all the time on this show. Like it's a thing. But the way that the NFL treated that game yesterday, I didn't like that at all. Every 2 minutes they were going to a different commercial. They were going to a different ad. They were going to something different, and it's ridiculous how it's throughout the day. You don't have to watch it, which I didn't. I didn't watch any of the pregame stuff. I had it on. I was doing other stuff throughout the day yesterday. But the way it's commercialized, it's so ridiculous. That that Gronkowski thing with FanDuel, that commercial that they started, I think 3 weeks ago or whatever it was, about kicking the field goal, and on it went. And the commercial was kind of goofy. You wonder how it's going to turn out. It turned out to be some corny, cheesy 15-second little ad in the third quarter that if you were getting a beer out of the fridge, you didn't even know what happened. So all that build up for that horse shit ad was ridiculous. That Gronkowski thing, like it's got to just enough with all that. Just put the game on. I know it's entertainment and you want to make a few bucks. I get it, but it turned out to be a sideshow throughout the entire game last night, and it was a little bit disappointing. And even they couldn't wait to end the telecast to go to some other show that they were touting, and they had a countdown clock. They didn't even bother talking to most of the players. They made sure they talked to the owners. Like, talk to the owner every time, and every chance they got, they're going to the owner's box and flashing those people on the screen, and the owner's box of the Chiefs. Those people are so out of touch, they probably didn't know what they were watching. I think it was the owner's daughter was in the box all dressed up like she was going to a cotillion or whatever the hell they got going on down there. But to me, it was absolutely ridiculous how many times they went to the owner's box. And then, like me and Dave have talked about, we'll talk about probably again tonight in the 1420 Sports Bar podcast, that they got to quit going to these owners after the game and having them on the stage. They did nothing. They did absolutely nothing but be rich and buy a team. And it just shows that how much of a joke that this is, that it's a bunch of guys dick swinging, and that's it. And these owners have teams. They don't care about those players one bit. And to say that they do, that's ridiculous. They get their trophy, they get it from Terry Bradshaw and the whole bit, and then it happens, and then the owners get all the credit for doing this and doing that and the other. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that they have the owners, and it goes to show you that it's a money-driven league, and it's just a toy for these guys. It's a toy for the networks. It's a toy for the owners, and these players kill themselves to go out and play this game that they love. And the way that was treated yesterday, I thought was really offside throughout the entire broadcast. Like, the way it is just it's so commercial throughout the entire time. I get it. They spend money to make money. I understand it, but it's at a level now. When it was on Fox yesterday, it was absolutely ridiculous. And to tote Derek Jeter out there at halftime or before the show started, for what? And I'm a Jeter guy. Like, to say you got baseball coming up, thank God it is. But like, to say that baseball's coming up, but get Jeter, what's that do you? Put it on Twitter, good, see you later. Have a commercial later on, good, see ya. Like, the way they do the whole thing, it's a shame. It's an absolute shame the way that game is commercialized, and it's awful. It's actually awful, and it's embarrassing, and it's a bad look with the refereeing the way it is, with the field conditions the way they are. And then, Rihanna, if you didn't want to be there, don't show up. Don't be there. Like, that was the most and I'm not against Rihanna. I'm nothing against her. Nothing against her, but that halftime show may have been the most underwhelming bit of entertainment I have ever laid my eyes on in my life. She didn't even try to look like she was lip syncing half the songs. Like, everybody knows lip syncing's happening, we get it. I get it. But that was the most underwhelming thing I have ever seen in the world of sports on an entertainment base. And the money that they spend on that, and the money that they spend on all the dancers and the training and the and the way it eats up the field, and for her to go out there and put on a performance like that was so underwhelming and so blasé. It was it's an embarrassing look, I think, on the National Football League, that they can't find somebody who wanted to be there. Just pretend that you wanted to be there, Rihanna, because what you were doing out there wasn't entertaining. Dancing around, pretending you wanted to be there. Yes, I understand you're pregnant, and I get it. And don't get at me. But that was a bad performance. Even Deanne, who I was watching the game with last night, she's a big Rihanna fan, and she thought it was really underwhelming and kind of an embarrassment as well. It was, in general, like, the game was good, so I shouldn't say that it was bad, but the periphery of it all, it was a bad look on the National Football League and on their showcase game, that the officials had to make that call at that time, and that the field was not in perfect condition, and that affected the game, I think, immensely, the way it all turned out. Who knows what could have happened? I mean, both teams play on the same same field, so you can't really blame it on anybody. But it's just the way it all turned out and the way it looked was a pretty bad look on the National Football League, and they really had to try to slow down the commercialism of that game, because yesterday I thought was an embarrassment on the league and on Fox, and the way that they portray that game and the way that they use it for their own personal little toy. And these owners, they got to stay off the field when the game's over. They got to stay off the field, and they got to quit showing these owners on the screen during the football game. Anyways, there's my little rant for the day. I enjoyed the game. I shouldn't be so upset about the way it all turned out, but it's just I get a little revved up about these things, and it makes me crazy when they take the sport out of the sport. But anyway.